Okay. Good evening. I'm calling to order the Fountain City Council meeting for October 22nd, 2024. Before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Almost caught everybody. He's just showing off his new knee over there, huh? That's right, yeah. We have the Girl Scout Troop 45270 here tonight. Ladies, thank you for being here. If I could get you to come up to the podium and everybody just say their names really quick, and then we'll have you come down a little closer and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And you are here working on your government badge. Just say, hi, my name is.
Hi, my name is Paisley Root.
Hi, my name is Paisley Root.
Okay, next.
Hi, my name's Nina Yarbrough.
Okay. Go ahead. It's okay. Go ahead. If the leader says it, that's okay too.
I can't.
This is Cadence.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Baroche.
All right, good job, ladies. If you want to come down a little bit closer to the front. All right, that's good. And then we'll have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have them start it for us. All right, go ahead. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job. Thank you, ladies. And they got photos, and each one of them got to be mayor up here earlier, so they got all their photos. So, all right. Okay. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Thompson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rick,
Here.
Councilmember Hinton,
Here.
Councilmember Applegate,
Here.
Councilmember Estes,
Here.
Councilmember Hersberg,
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
7 present.
Thank you very much. That takes us on to item 4.1, presentations. There are none tonight. Item 4.2, board, commission, and committee. There are no appointees tonight. Item 5, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to briefly mention that this Friday night will be the trunk or treat. Right out here behind City Hall, we have a number of different trunks that are going to be there for kids that want to come and trick or treat there. It'll be a lot of fun.
What time does that begin?
Let's see, I think it starts at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7.
5 to 7?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Blankenship?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. I know that you're all aware that there was a news story yesterday about one of our customers and a concern with some water consumption or water use and concern about potential overbilling. Brett Robinson, our customer service manager, and I met with the customer this afternoon. And I'm very pleased to announce that we do have a resolution with the customer, and I'll ask Brett to step up to the microphone and he can share some of the details with you.
Thank you very much. Brett, you did a good job on the interview on TV.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to say that I did send you an email update. We were able to offer assistance funding to the resident, and we do have a resolution for this. I also just wanted to state that, we do these courtesy calls for the benefit of the public. We try to help folks out and notify them that we see an abnormal either high usage or low usage or no usage at all. And we want to investigate to see what's going on. A lot of the community is very appreciative that we send these calls because typically they're laying down sod, which if you don't know, right now you can get a great deal on sod because it's at the end of the season. So there's actually a lot of customers that are laying down sod right now as we speak. So when we call them and we say, hey, you have abnormal high usage, they'll say, oh, it's okay, we're laying sod, or yes, I did have a toilet leak, or whatever the case may be. So I just want to make that point across that we're here for the community, we're here to provide good customer service, and this is why we make these courtesy calls. They're typically towards the end of the month, And because that is a majority of our environment, we have about 9,000 water meters. We read some of the north end of town in Security Widefield area, which we do not serve water, for the electric service. We do those during the first 2 weeks of the month. While the last 2 weeks of the month, we read the sections down here, and it's about 8,000 meters down here in this area. And so naturally, towards the end of the month, out of those, if we read a group of 4,000 water meters, we probably call about 50 or 60 individuals to let them know they have abnormal high usage. So it's a standard practice. We've been doing it for years. It's not necessarily anything to do with a meter malfunction or anything of that sort. It could be just normal usage. And these meters are capable of holding about 3 months worth of data, 96 days of hourly data. Unfortunately, right now, we have to visit the account, interrogate the meter, and pull that usage off the meter. And at that point, we can log the meter and showcase hour per hour what has been consumed through that meter. And pending any questions, that's all I have for you.
So right now, if, I just want to make sure, we are a not-for-profit
Absolutely correct.
utility. So we're not raising rates to make money, we're not raising rates to give Dan a Christmas bonus, nothing, right?
No, in
Just-
fact,
we're
we
not-
haven't raised
right.
rates since March of 2020. Now, we do have a current cost of service and rates study that we'll be coming forth with, and I can tell you that it does recommend an increase in rates. But we've had a significant increase in costs over the past 4 years, but we've coupled that and been able to sustain by making some modifications in how we do business and minimizing our expenses. But it's gotten to the point where we do need to seriously consider raising our rates in order to cover our cost of business. And you are correct.
Yeah,
We
and
do
the
not-
last time there was a rate increase suggested, the council decided to defer it, because I think it was during COVID, and we decided
Correct.
to, and so.
There was a
yeah,
consideration soon after I got here, and that was deferred.
Okay.
Correct.
So on electric meters, people can go in now and they can look at their daily usage or discover, oh, the kids are home from school and they're cranking that baby down,
Yeah,
And they
yes.
can adjust it, right? We are working towards that process on the water meters, but because of supply chain issues and different things, we're not quite there yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. With the water meters, we do not have the hourly consumption available to present to the web portal at this time. Once we set up a fixed network infrastructure, we'll be able to read those readings daily, and we will be able to see within 24 to 72 hours hourly consumption intervals. But right now, we just don't have that phase 2 infrastructure in place. So on the electric side, you can see that. You can see what your hourly usage is. You can also see what your daily usage is. You also can put an overlay of the temperature to see during the summer months that during hotter days, your AC went up during that day because your energy consumption was much higher. But we hope to get there with the water, but right now, we're simply on a drive-by system. We drive by once a month. We gather a 30-day read, and from there, we have high-low reports that we look at to see who has high usage, who has low usage, or who has zero usage. And from that point, that's when we start making courtesy calls and going to investigate to see what's going on. But in the future, when we have phase 2 and we have these hourly intervals available within 24 to 72 hours, we'll be able to be more proactive and find those leaks or just high usage sooner.
And we are available to go out and assist the customer.
That's correct.
To not only look at the meter, make an appointment, go out and look at the meter, but to, kind of suggest different places they might be looking too, right? Especially, it happens during the summer when people start turning their sprinklers on, right?
That's
Help them find
correct.
the leaks.
You're absolutely correct.
Councilmember Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Dan, I just want you to address a rumor. There's a rumor out there that we charge more for water in the summertime than we do in the wintertime. Can you address that, please?
We charge the exact same amount of water year-round, the same amount that we've been charging since March of 2020.
Thank you,
There is
Dan.
no change in the rates infrastructure. Certainly, if you use more water, it's just like going to the gas station. You're gonna pay a higher bill.
Yeah, just to give you further clarification for our call logs, when the summer months hit, our courtesy calls do increase because during the summer months, there's just more usage. So just to give you an idea, we, to date, have conducted approximately 1,400 courtesy calls for higher abnormal water usage. During the months of January through April, when folks are not irrigating, we're calling about 60 to 80 individuals monthly. Whereas during the May to August months, we're calling 213 to 229 individuals because it's during the summer months. Everybody's irrigating. Now, last September, we called 109 individuals for that month. And to date in October, it's October 22nd, we've called 113 people this month. So you can see it's starting to trickle down, but folks are still irrigating.
I was one of the individuals your department called. I was in North Dakota in May, and when I came back in June, I did a lot of watering, and I got the courtesy call, so I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, any further questions from anybody? Councilmember Duncan?
I don't have a question. I just have a statement and say thank you for the customer service, the excellent customer service to that resident, because I know if I had been put in that position, I wouldn't have been able to pay my water bill. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
To you
Thank
and your team. Thank you, Dan.
We appreciate that.
And one last question. People are going to be turning their heaters on probably eventually, right? It's 80 degrees today, but eventually people start turning their heaters on.
Right.
And there's a program for assistance if they have trouble with their electric bill. Is that correct?
Yes, so we have assistance through Energy Outreach Colorado, and that covers typically energy bills or water or wastewater. There's also Lighten the Load, which is a program that is funded through the utility here. It's administered by a third party, Salvation Army, and there's a funding source there, and that will cover electric, water, or wastewater. We do not service the gas, but gas and heating, there is a program called LEAP, and that is for energy and heating. So LEAP is available for, Black Hills Energy for folks that need help with their gas bill. And again, we don't service gas, we service electric, water, and wastewater.
But that would also be available through Salvation Army? They do it all? So
I believe so,
don't get
yes.
behind in your bill. If you start struggling with it, reach out for assistance sooner rather than later.
You got it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Ms. Martinez?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, and anything from the back row? No? City Clerk? Okay, and IT? Okay, all righty, Councilmember Rick.
Just a reminder, on Saturday, November 9th, 11 a.m., there will be a Veterans Day Parade in Colorado Springs. And then at 1:30 on the same day, the American Legion, VFW, and City Fountain will hold a Veterans Day ceremony at 1:30 at the American Legion Post 38. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Applegate?
As we know, 'tis the season, the elections are upon us. So, yeah, hopefully everybody got their ballot if you didn't receive it. Elections Department for El Paso County, phone number is 719-575-8683. Have till the 5th to turn it in. You have till the 28th to mail in. And yeah, hopefully everybody vote, get it in.
All right, we
So,
got 2 ballot boxes down
Exactly.
this way?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And our locations for our ballot boxes this way, yes, are behind the police station, located on 8587, and near the Duckwood Crossing in the county park there on the, I just lost my train of thought. What park is that? Fountain Creek Regional. Yeah, Fountain Creek Regional.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, yep. Councilmember Estes?
I don't have anything this evening.
Councilmember Hinton?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Hersberg? And Councilmember Duncan?
Thank you. So as it was mentioned that our ballots are out and it's very crowded this year, We have 14 statewide ballot measures plus local initiatives. Use your ballot blue book to help. Please turn in your ballot early so that the results are in on election night. One of the things that are on the ballot is Amendment G, and it's on your ballot, and it's asking us voters to amend the state constitution to break for a constitutional tax break to 1,000 more veterans with disabilities. If approved by voters, military veterans considered unemployable due to their disabilities would qualify for the state homestead exemption. It is a property tax break for primary residents. And there are three kinds of people that qualify. If you are a senior and you are 65 years or older and you've lived in your home for at least 10 years, you qualify for that tax break. The second one, veterans with certain disabilities, with service-related disabilities qualify. And the third thing is the surviving spouse of a U.S. military who died in the line of duty. So I don't know about you, and I'm not telling people how to vote, but anything that helps our veteran, and that's Amendment G, I'm so for it. One more thing is the mega merger trial in Colorado is almost at its conclusion, and that is the merger between Kroger and Safeway, which is happening in our back door. Fountain is on the list of Safeways that are going to be kept by Kroger. Albertsons own 103 Safeway stores and 2 Albertsons in Colorado. So keep you posted. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much. So since we met the last time, I have been very proud to represent the city of Fountain at the PPACG meeting. We had some Jordahl students here. We had about 30 of them with Lieutenant Mallet and Lieutenant Marshall assisting me with the kids here. That was really fun. And just like our Girl Scouts today, they come in with a lot of questions and wondering how things work. Redemption Hill Church did a Fountain Fall Festival at Cross Creek Park, and they did a great job. There was a lot of citizens there, and they had a good time going around and playing games and getting candy. And many of you know Pam from the library right over here, retired, went to her retirement party, and she also retired from the Friends of Fairview Cemetery group. Of course, attended the nighttime dance and the Oh My Gourd. Thank you to the Fountain Up group for that. That was a great event, and there's, I think, about over 300 citizens at least 300, right? Do you know the number?
We were at 700. Madam Mayor.
700, okay, 300 when I left. Wow, that's great. It was a really fun event. Beautiful evening for it. Had perfect weather. Council had a combined work session with our Economic Development Committee, getting a lot of good ideas going on. Went to the Peak Vista Breakfast of Champions, and Janet Evans, a swimmer from years ago, was the speaker. And Rail Yard Oversight Committee meeting. Friday spent half the day at the Fort Carson Strategy Forum and helping us build relationships that we have with Fort Carson and our military, and attended the Colorado Barricade Ribbon Cutting Ceremony. So they are now on the other side of the freeway. They paint roads, they provide barricades, street signs, all sorts of stuff. So they're right in our backyard now. So lots of busy things going on because we are a city with a lot of stuff going on. So thank you to that. Before we go on to citizens to be heard, I do only have one card, so if there's anybody else that was wanting to address council, please go ahead and take a minute and grab a card at the back. These are for items that are not on the agenda, and you can pass it over to Dan, and he'll be happy to take that card from you. I do want to advise council and the members here today that in our packet was an item 8A, old business, for the second reading of the ordinance for the school zone fine. However, it did not make it onto the agenda, so we will be addressing that item at next council meeting and not this one because it was not posted correctly on the agenda, even though it was released with the packet to the public. We want to make sure anything that we cover that could be of interest to the citizens is on the agenda, and so they have a chance to be here. So when we get there, we'll be skipping that. So That takes us on to item 6, public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. And the only card I have is from John Langley from the American Legion. And he's going to come on down.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Thanks for letting me come up here and talk about the American Legion Fountain Post 38. So we have a few things that are going on in the near future. We have Oktoberfest, which is coming up on this Friday. It'll be at the American Legion. We'll be having Jaeger Schnitzel, some beers, and Spätzle, and potato salad, and a Black Forest cake. Our auxiliary has been able to collect 78 new coats for kids in the local school districts. We were able to raise $1,500 for Fountain Fort Carson High School's ROTC so that they could buy their pinks and greens. The SAL and the Legion also donated $1,500 to the Honor Bell. So if you don't know about the Honor Bell, they're trying to get one that is going to be full-time down at Pikes Peak National Cemetery. That's going to be about $325,000 or better to get that down here. And so they can use all the money they can so that they can have the bell for every service down here at Pikes Peak National Cemetery. We have a toy drive that's starting on November the 1st. Those toys get delivered over to the Fountain Police Department, and with local schools help out kids that are there and possibly and other children that may not see a good Christmas. This Saturday we have our trunk or treat from 1 to 3. And then at 5 o'clock, we have a haunted garage that will be offered at that time. And the chief's not here, but I just wanted to say he had 6 police officers come to our last steak dinner. Thank you for coming by and enjoying the steak. And that is all I have, unless y'all have any questions for me.
I do not. Anybody else? Thank you for being so active in our community. We really appreciate it. And thank you to the VFW also. Oh, yes.
How did your golf tournament turn out?
So without getting the rest of the numbers in, I'm still waiting on the cost of the golf course. But I'm thinking that we probably made between $8,000 and $9,000 at that. And now that we know a lot of things now that we didn't know when we first started, I think we could probably double that number by next year for our next one, because we're planning on trying to do it again.
Good. It seemed like for a while there, every time you turned around, somebody was having a golf tournament. You just don't hear about them as much. So maybe you have perfect timing right there. All right. Okay, that was it for public to be heard. That takes us on to the consent agenda. All items listed on our consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. We only have one item, the approval of the October 8th city council members. What would council like to do? Councilmember Rick.
Move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Councilmember Estes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Okay. 7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, that takes us on to item 8, old business. There is none, since we already discussed taking item 8A off. And that takes us on to new business. Item 9A, consideration of item removed from the consent agenda. There were none, so nothing removed. Item 9B, resolution 24-036. A resolution authorizing the imposition of a monthly fee of $74.90 to all property owners within the Remuda Ridge Metropolitan District boundary pursuant to section VA4 of the approved Remuda Ridge Metropolitan District Service Plan. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Christy Martinez with the City of Fountain Planning Department.
I know that metro districts don't often come before city council for consideration, so I am going to go very slowly through this process and asking multiple times through the process if there are any questions, because I don't want to go all the way through and somebody goes, I don't understand what you said on slide 1. So bear with me. I know some folks on city council do have some experience and others don't. So with that, being considered tonight is a fee request from the Remuda Ridge Metropolitan District. This district was initially established in 2007, and some folks might be asking, where is Remuda Ridge? That was the original name of the Aspen Ranch development, which is located at the northeast corner of Kane and Link Road. Metro districts provide a funding mechanism for the financing of construction and installation of improvements associated with the development. Oftentimes, it's a lot of public improvements, so the water lines, sewer lines, streets, stormwater infrastructure, and if they do provide other amenities to the residents within that metro district boundary. So in some cases, it's parks, community centers, pools, things like that. In this instance, the original metro district was established for the construction of the public improvements, the roads, utilities, and parks. The funding is typically financed through bonds that the metro district acquires that debt and then is paid off by the ultimate residents of that district who will be benefiting through that. As part of that, there is a mill levy that's associated with each metro district, and that is assessed on each individual property's property taxes. The mill levy on your property tax is just shown as one number, but that is actually split into 2 separate items. One is for the debt service to pay off the bonds that were taken out to pay for that infrastructure up front. And then the second portion is for operation and maintenance. The debt service tends to be the bulk of what that mill levy is, with a smaller portion going towards the ongoing operation and maintenance. Between 2007 and 2020, the property remained vacant and there was some land ownership transactions through there. In 2021, the Aspen Ranch, which is what is known as today, came forth with land use entitlements. It went through their overall development plan, laid out their densities, and was ultimately approved for 227 single-family residential lots and a 1-acre public safety site. Also during that same time frame, City Council had approved an amended and restated service plan in 2021. What that did was reviewed the 2007 initial plan, revamped it all to make sure it was current. They reviewed all their finances to lay out and make sure that the district could be solvable based upon the mill levies that they had established. Are there any questions with just the general history of the Metro District and the funding mechanisms?
I don't have any, but just for people listening, if you could just back up just a second. A lot of people think a metro district is an HOA or a different thing, so could you kind of just define that a little bit?
I will attempt to do this in the most tactful way. So a metro district can act in some manner as a functionality of an HOA, but not at the same level. So a metro district is a quasi governmental entity where they do have the ability to take bonds out to pay for infrastructure. They have the financing mechanisms through their mill levy, so it's kind of a hybrid between a government entity and a private residential HOA.
They're not going to be telling you what color you can paint your house or you need to mow your lawn.
Generally speaking, no. They do have the ability to have some HOA type functions, so some maintenance provisions that sometimes HOAs handle, a metro district can also handle.
Okay, this is just a metro district.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Within the 2021 restated service plan, it had approved a debt service mill levy of a maximum of 40 mills, a maximum of operation and maintenance mill levy of 10 with a maximum aggregate of 50, which means that the debt service could not go above 40 mills and the operation and maintenance couldn't go above the 10. So they could do any kind of a combination thereof with the maximum aggregate of the 50. However, within that service plan, it is subject to the Gallagher Amendment, and I'm going to go into the weeds real quickly, not to get stuck in there. But the Gallagher Amendment adjustment does allow for an increase in the mill levy to make up for lost tax revenue from when the plan was originally approved in 2007, and then that's passed along to those residents. So the current mill levy for the Remuda Ridge Metro District is at 59.4 mills. which, as I said, is above the maximum aggregate because they are eligible for that Gallagher adjustment. Within the service plan, it does restrict the district's ability to impose fees without consent of the city, which is what's bringing forth the request tonight. The district had provided a written notice to the city requesting to impose monthly fees to the district residents. When this request came forth, they were just finalizing some of the new residential homes. There weren't any residents that had occupied at that point. If there were only a handful. The initial fees within the plan allowed for a trash service of $16.50 to be collected each month from those residents. The request before City Council tonight is to increase that to include a $58.40 monthly fee for community maintenance to go towards their park maintenance and general operation and repair maintenances of the community amenities. In this instance, it's a significant community park in the middle of their development. So the request is for the total monthly fee of the $74.90, which equates to just shy of $900 per year. They're also asking for consideration and approval of City Council to adjust the fee in response to inflation to not exceed the lower of the Consumer Price Index or 10%. So they would evaluate the Consumer Price Index for the region or the 10%, but not both, and it would be the lower of those two. They're also seeking approval to assess a fine. In their letter was a $10 fee, but I believe the presentation provided by the Metro District Board has a different number in there for any fines for the delinquent balances should the fee be unpaid. Are there any questions on the fee request?
What would the interest be?
That I don't know. I would have to defer to the district manager who does have a presentation.
We'll wait
Can
till they
answer
come
that.
up. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Rick?
Why do we need to charge the residents for snow removal?
That would I'd have to defer to the district managers. I don't know
Okay.
if that snow removal is to those public amenities that are within the park area. So they have some pathways and trails in there, or where that snow
Okay.
removal portion would come from.
I'll wait on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Duncan?
Okay, my question is, how would this fee be communicated to new homeowners and to renters?
So it would go to, and correct me if I'm wrong, to the district. It goes to the resident, not necessarily the landowner or the property owner? Resident. Resident?
If you're going to come up, you can stand right there at that one there and then just push the middle button where it looks like a little talking mouth. There you go.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rebecca Harris, District Manager for Remuda Ridge Metropolitan District. I can help answer a lot of those questions. So remind me of the first question with the...
I can address the communication with the disclosure, but is it going to the property owner or to a renter?
So it will go to essentially the property owner because of the way Title 32 is written, is it does stipulate statutorily that all fees, rates, tolls, charges, penalties remain with property. However, we do encourage homeowners that if they have a renter that they need to figure that out in their rental agreement for the properties.
Okay, my second question, the trash service, is the trash service for one day? The community will have trash service pickup for one day and the same carrier?
That's correct. And they get trash and recycle.
Okay, and so that's communicated also through the homeowner? Because I live in a HOA in Metropolitan, and we have people moving in that's unaware of, I have to run and tell people, don't go, they'll have somebody come and pick up trash on another day. So, the communication piece is very important because they sign contracts with other carriers. And so just wanted to know how that's going to be communicated, that if a new homeowner comes in, that they have trash on a certain day and who's the carrier.
Absolutely. So all of that communication is handled at each closing of the home, especially these new closings that are occurring. The builder has actually taken on that responsibility of providing a welcome letter that explains not only the trash service fee, but also this potential of another fee, so long as City Council gives us written consent. So then they are well aware in advance of everything that is happening. And they are given our district management contact information to get trash service set up and everything.
Also, if a homeowner is not able to pay the monthly fee of $74.90 per month, do you put liens on the homes?
We have that capability. I always advertise that we are not in the market of trying to foreclose on anyone's homes. Essentially, one of the things, because the statute of Title 32 does stipulate that the fees would remain with the property, when a property sells, we would get collection at closing for any of the past due balances on that property.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, Christy, let's keep running forward.
All right. So just a graphical depiction. Again, it only affects the residents that do live within the district boundaries, so an aerial of the Aspen Ranch development. A lot of the new homes kind of consist in this area. D.R. Horton is currently building down in the southern area as well, but they have not closed on any of the properties at this time. So what does that look like financially? So I did a comparison to another metro district within the close vicinity, within the Ventana development that had a comparable assessed value, a similar lot size, and a fairly similar mill levy. So in this example, each of the properties have a 5,000 square foot lot. They would have an assessed value of approximately $28,000 a year. With the mill levy on the Ventana side at 50.5, with the mill levy of 59.4 for Aspen Ranch and the Remuda Ridge. So on their property taxes, each individual one in this case, the Metro District mill levy assessment would be approximately $1,400 and $1,700 for Aspen Ranch, and then a total for all taxing entities, which includes the county, bridge, city, any other water districts. I think there's the library, or any other taxing entities. In this case, in Ventana, they're paying approximately $3,000 a year, and then in Aspen Ranch, it would be approximately $3,700. The residents within the Remuda Ridge development could potentially then be subjected to that monthly fee, again, which is equated to approximately $900 a year, and then broken down, so their trash fee a year is about $200, with the maintenance fees being approximately $700. The district did hold a community meeting a couple of weeks ago on October 9th with the existing residents. There's approximately 33 to 35 residents that have closed on the properties and have taken ownership of the 227 lots. The discussion was held on the proposed fee, and within that communication, the district did invite those residents to attend tonight's city council meeting. So for the approval steps, staff does not provide any types of recommendation. In fact, there's not even a review criteria for staff to evaluate on this. This is solely at city council's discretion, should they either approve or deny the fee request, as that's outlined within that approved service plan. And then on the screen are the two possible motions, either to approve it or to deny it. Are there any questions for staff?
Just for a vacant lot.
So you have 33 to 35 people that moved in.
Correct.
The fee was not charged, or they didn't know about it when they closed.
There is a disclosure that is provided at time of closing that does outline the $16.50 fee, with a notation that the district is going through seeking the approval of this additional $58 fee, but it has not been implemented.
So why doesn't this go to those people as a vote?
Because within the service plan at this time, it's based upon council's discretion to impose the fees.
Any other questions from anybody or comments? Or, well, let's say our comments till you do the presentation first, but does anybody have any questions on anything Christie's presented? Okay. All right.
Thank you. I will turn it over. There are three representatives of the development. Two are from the Metro District Property Management, and then Richard Van Seenis is here from Aspen View Homes, who is the primary developer within the area.
Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you. And if you could just go ahead and use that podium over there, that'd be great. And that way, if we have citizens, we'll let them use the other podium. So, okay.
Just
But,
button.
yep, there you go. Yep.
Do you need me on the mic? Sometimes I tend to
Yes,
wander when I
we
talk.
need you on the
Okay.
mic, so
I'll
you
do
can
my
get,
best to
we wouldn't
stay
want you to be
here.
silent on YouTube, you know, we want everybody to hear you out there.
Sure,
so.
sure.
And then if, your name, please?
My name is Richard Van Cenas, so I'm here really wearing two hats. I represent Cola LLC, which is the developer or a sister company of Aspen View Homes, and I also am one of the appointees on the board for Bermuda Ridge Metro District. So I also have a fiduciary responsibility from that position. So,
Chris, could you switch the presentations?
thank you. Okay, so if you could switch to the first slide, please. Next slide. So give you a quick overview. I think some of this has already been covered. Bermuda Ridge Metro District overlays Aspen Ranch. We have a total of 227 lots. Our current build-out is anticipated for the end of 2026, early 2027. Currently, our schedule shows our last closing in January of 2027. Land development of on-sites and off-sites for our Phase 1, which consists of 105 lots, is complete, and that's the area that's currently under construction. In that area, we have closed 32, I believe it might be 33 homes now, and we have another 24 currently under construction. That is between two different home builders, Aspen View Homes and D.R. Horton Homes. D.R. Horton has not closed any homes yet. Their first closing is scheduled for October 30th. 90% of our common area has already been completed. That common area is not exclusive to Phase 1. It's part of the common area in Phase 2 also. We chose, if I recall correctly, back in 2021, we were pulled off of consent for our plat. And the conversation behind that was City Council wanted to have some assurance that the assets, which we'll get into here, were going to be built with Phase 1 so that should anything go awry, residents would be able to enjoy those assets and not get left holding the bag with how does that come together? So we did move forward with that. We're very proud that we accommodated that and delivered. And I think you'll see by some of the pictures, we have some beautiful assets out there. Land development of Phase 2 is now complete. With that, we are underway in finishing the common area. And we are preparing currently for submittal to City of Fountain for our preliminary acceptance. Next slide, please. Oh. One back. So this will give you an idea of some of the assets we have. We have over 12 acres of area that's irrigated, and I also don't want to forget to acknowledge the Water Department and Dan's team. I am the recipient of multiple phone calls on that. Not living in the area and this being common area, I'm grateful to get those calls when we have a leak, because 12 areas of irrigated area can add up fast, as I'm sure you can imagine. But so here we have some perimeter. This slide here is representative of some of the perimeter we have, which goes around the community. In the park, we have over 6 acres of park. We have a playground, which you can see here, that is complete and being used. We have a turfed area, which, if I recall the calculation correct, we have over 80,000 square feet of sod. We have 2 gazebos, one at the playground, one at some horseshoe pits, which you see a nice horseshoe pit over there. There's a little seating area there. And a nice basketball court with hoops that go up and down. I actually saw some little kids playing on the lower hoop when I drove by this evening. So here on the bottom slide, you can get a panoramic of some of the more passive common areas, the detention pond, and we have some trails, breezeway trails where people can walk through. So some nice assets for the community there. Next slide, please. So talk a little bit about the district assets. I can't quite read from this angle, so I'm going to look at my printed presentation. So the district assets that really need to be maintained, and this is currently being maintained by the developer and us as the developer, looking at a horizon in time when the district is meant to take this over and can adequately maintain this. So the first area is the park. That's Area B. Area A is going to be the open space that goes around the perimeter. There's also some stone walls that go with that would need to be maintained. G is the detention pond. We have a separate agreement with the city on our obligations to maintain that as a metro district. Utility equipment space is Section H. That's something that Mountain View Electric asked for because we weren't able to get an easement on the north side from that property owner. Other assets, number one, here on the top, there's a retaining wall up there that's main function is to divert off-site drainage so that it doesn't flood onto the owner's lots there. So that needs to be maintained. Item number two is an off-site drainage way. That was something we worked out long ago with, I believe it was Integrity Bank and the then engineer of City of Fountain. There was some downstream drainage problems, and that was something that addressed a lot of those issues that was happening in the overall community. Number three is, let's see, that's a back of slope. That's another drainage area. That's related to Fountain Mutual irrigation ditch, and then that will go into item number 4, which is that yellow line. That is a bypass pipe for Fountain Mutual ditch that needs to be also maintained by the Metro District. And then lastly, under drains is kind of the phantom in our business. It's something that in a lot of cases, particularly when you have high groundwater, which we did, particularly on the south side of this property, it's a necessary evil. The challenge is it's left without maintenance. And I know I've talked with Todd about this, about the impacts that communities can have when that's not maintained. I have another community where I just saw a bill of $125,000 to go and find a under drain that was never disclosed. So you have a lot of these things, and what we're trying to do is step ahead of this and make sure that this is maintained for the district and ultimately the residents. There's 2 under drains here. You have all the dotted dashed lines in the community represent where they are. So you have on Crescent Moon, which is this road here, closest to me, and then the road on the south. That's really a dewatering under drain, which helps to dewater the overall site. And then you have an on-site under drain, which supports the lots, and particularly that higher water table area. Another thing I'll mention is, we've really enjoyed working with the City of Fountain. I feel like we've been good partners. There's always situations that come up that aren't planned for. In this situation, you heard that we had taken on this project. We're not the first one to be at the table. We learned at some point that the previous developer had made agreements with a neighbor to install a fence. Those were not agreements we were party to. We chose to honor those agreements with the McNeese family here on the east. So we did install fences. We also worked with the City of Fountain to expand the scope after approval on Link Road to get some of those improvements to a higher level. And then obviously the lot which was donated to the fire department for future safety center, or I believe they actually have a sign now that says future fire station number 4. So we're excited and grateful to see that coming. Next slide, please. So question came up on, how is this being communicated to homeowners? So, there's 2 different builders, so it's happening a little bit differently with each. This document here, this is a document that's provided to the title company for presentation to each homeowner at closing. Now that is in addition to sales staff being notified and having that conversation. Up above, this is a snippet from D.R. Horton's contract. That is what they have in their homeowner contract at the front end purchase of every home that they're selling. On the far left side there, that is the copy of the letter that we delivered to each homeowner for our town hall meeting, which I'll call it, which was on October 9, I believe. We had in attendance probably almost 15 homeowners. It was hard to gauge. Some people brought a spouse, but I would guess it was between 12 and 15 homeowners. A lot of the homeowners came with questions. My read on the room was by the end of the evening, which we did a similar presentation to what you're going to see forthcoming, and then the Q&A. A lot of them were satisfied with the information that was provided. In addition to that, there's 2 other home disclosures. They're pretty boilerplate. I mean, I'll address this later, but I'm sure when you buy a house, you get a stack of papers this thick. So we look to be redundant where we can. So that notice, so you know, was delivered by email, by snail mail, and by door knocking. So we chose to do 3 different forms of delivery to get, you know, as much exposure as we could. So, next slide, please. So, and I'll bring Rebecca up to help a little bit at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, so I will start to dive into more of the Metropolitan District role and how it plays now that the builder and developer is starting to get into a transition period of wanting to set the community up for success for their phasing out. Thank you, Christy, she already covered a lot of the history. So if you want to go to the next slide. So our request tonight is that we get written consent from City of Fountain in order to impose the fee of $58.40 to provide maintenance services. As we all heard earlier, the Remuda Ridge Metropolitan District Service Plan, when it was amended, we do have the authority to essentially impose fees, rates, tolls, charges, penalties, et cetera. However, there was the caveat written into Remuda Ridge's Metropolitan District Service Plan with the City of Fountain that we do need to receive consent from the City of Fountain in order to actually impose those fees to those residents. If you can go to the next slide, please. So Metro District financing advantages, a big role that metropolitan districts do play in, honestly, in today's world, is that it does allow the ability to have a homeowner buy the price of a home at a little bit lower cost, because when a developer does go in and decide that they want to go ahead and develop an unincorporated piece of land, essentially, they're able to put forth all the public infrastructure. Essentially, the public infrastructure, there's usually one of 2 ways that a developer or builder will recoup costs for providing water, utilities, electric, gas, roads, sewer, curb, gutter, all those things. And that is, they can either put it on the price of the lot that they're selling to the builder, put it on the price of the home to the homeowner. And within the most recent years at state legislation, a lot of this has been actually of topic, and they've been able to calculate that it's anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 more on the price of the home for a homeowner. And so when a metro district gets established, it allows the developer to take out a double tax exempt bond to actually finance for those public infrastructures, which does make it a cheaper for the homeowner on the front end there. Then they pay it over the course of time with mill levies on the property taxes for the services that they're receiving for that infrastructure. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The $48 or the $58.40 assessment asset maintenance fee that we are discussing tonight. In the service plan, it establishes that the Metro District has the ability to provide services that can include water, storm water, wastewater, street improvements, public streets, parks and rec, mosquito control, security, covenant enforcement, which I know you had a question earlier on that, design review, and solid waste disposal. Remuda Ridge has taken on the ability to provide the solid waste disposal. That's our trash service. And then we do also provide covenant enforcement in that community as well. However, the asset maintenance fee that we're discussing today is just for the maintenance of the current assets that was previously presented. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This sums up essentially what we've already discussed. The O&M mill levy, it's capped at the 10 mills. With Gallagherization, it got up to 11.881 mills, and that's for operations and maintenance. That covers a lot of administrative, legal counsel, those kind of fees. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Right here is a snippet of the actual service plan where it does establish, you'll see in the second to bottom line where it says it needs to receive the written consent from the city in order to impose fees. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I know Christy went ahead and provided a comparison with Ventana Metropolitan District for you guys to be able to compare a little bit more neighboring communities that do collect the mill levies. However, these are other neighboring I'll let you speak to some of these.
So these are other communities that would have a similar asset offering, parks, open space in our assessment. What we did here is we assumed a $500,000 house with the total mill levy package that those properties have. And then we added that fee for comparison purposes. So Aspen Ranch is going to be in the top left corner. We have Mesa Ridge, which is the oldest one here. This is, I believe, Mesa Ridge 2. So that one is a little bit less. That's at just over $4,800 a year versus the $51 that this would be increased to at Aspen Ranch. Lorson Ranch is another one. That's at $5,200, so a little bit more than where Aspen Ranch. And Trails at Aspen Ridge, that's one of our other development communities. And that's at almost $5,600 with the total asset package. From our point of view, all of these communities have similar homes with similar parks and open space offerings. Next slide, please.
Thank you. The district financial responsibility. So essentially on the district income side, you'll see the taxes collected. If we were to basically the developer walk away and the district takes on responsibility as of today, these are the numbers that we would be looking at. That the income for taxes collected, we're only looking at $7,000, and that's due to there's usually a 2-year lag from when a home gets built and the actual property taxes being received at the full assessed valuation of that home and not a vacant lot. It usually does take about 2 years for that to kick in. And then we have our asset maintenance fee down there. That's the $58.40 that we're proposing. If we were able to go ahead and essentially assess that, we'd be looking at $159,000 of income coming in for that. Trash fee, that's the $9,000. That does take into consideration if we do have any homes that do go into collection, because there's usually at least a handful of homeowners that just don't pay the bill. And so that's tacking on late fees essentially to that homeowner. The developer's advance down there at the bottom, we're still looking at $68,000 that we would still need to have from the developer. And then when you compare it to our district expenses, we have administrative costs of about $58,000. The asset maintenance expense is actually higher than the fee that we're proposing at $177,000. And then the trash cost is about $8,280. Next slide, please. Here is a more detailed analysis for you to be able to look at our projections up until 2031. This is based off of homes being built out, and our ultimate goal in this projection here is where do we get to where the developer, when the community is built out and they need to walk away and they no longer are providing developer advances, what number are we looking at? That's what this analysis is based off of. So you'll see in 2027, when we're projecting that the developer is done, they're walking away, they have sold their last home in that community, that's the $58.40 that we are saying that we need to be able to supplement to get us to at least to where the developer is walking away without providing any more developer advances at the end. Next slide, please. I know you.
Yeah. So, I know we're talking about a total fee here of $47.90. I really do think that they get bifurcated a little bit because you have the trash fee and then we have the maintenance fee. So I had a real awareness going through this process. Our team here pulled 5 different offers from different trash companies. And $1,650 per month was the winning bid. I, at that time, paid $90 a month for my trash service. My neighborhood has 8 different trash companies. There's different color trash cans, different days of the week, trash trucks every day of the week. I talked with Bob McDonald about this. It was something that he also said, yeah, I would love to see trash trucks going just once a week. The impact that we can't really calculate that has on the roads is measurable. So now that I've joined HBS, which was our selected service, and I actually brought a copy of my bill, I am now paying $23.75 a month, and that's just because I don't have the economies of scale that we're able to offer as a community like this. So that's something a benefit that we're also proud to offer. Yep. Next slide, please.
So right here, this slide is, this one and the next one are going to be our main highlights for our city council here tonight, and as well as the residents. They got to see the same information that we're presenting to you guys. And that is the allocation of the $58.40. What does it cover? It covers this. It's going to cover the electric fees, which we're estimating to be at $240. Stormwater and underdrain maintenance, so that's the detention pond and the underdrain maintenance, and we're estimating around $7,840. Snow removal, I know there was a question earlier on snow removal. That is just for the sidewalks on the tracks that the Metro District owns, where the public infrastructure is, where the parks, the playgrounds, and the walking trails. That's where the snow removal is occurring. It's not in front of every home. The contingency, we always want to have a contingency because, again, you can't predict everything that's going to happen. Unfortunately, we try our best. Repairs and maintenance, we put in for $10,000. That's going to be for irrigation, parks, playground, any of the assets that is currently being owned and maintained by the Metro District. That's what the repair and maintenance is for. Landscape upkeep, that is for the park, playground, tracks, and the detention pond, and that little sliver track that does go around the community where the fence is. We are responsible for maintaining that concrete fence as well, so if anything does shift or change, the Metro District is responsible for the maintenance on that fence. And then water. Water is the biggest cost, as you could see in the park and in the playground. It's a beautiful playground, but of course that comes at a cost in order for the grass to be as green and to be fun to play in. Let's go to the next slide, please. So any cost beyond that maintenance is being supplemented by developer advances and the O&M mill levy. And that's going to cover your accounting, your district management, SDA dues. The reason why they are members of the SDA, if for those that don't know, it's the Special District Association, is so that they can actually be a part of the Colorado Special District's property and liability pool, which provides insurance to local governments, and they are able to provide it at about a 10% lower cost because it's a pool for Colorado that everybody pays into. And then also on there, we have legal fees. They're always going to be there. Office supplies, that's going to be copies, paper, postage, those kind of things. The treasurer fee, that's something that's out of our hand, out of our control. That is a El Paso County treasurer. They collect that when they send property taxes. And then the trash collection cost, that is being supplemented by the trash fee itself. Next slide, please. So right here is just more of a visual so you guys can see all of the services as far as maintenance-wise that the Metropolitan District is providing. We have the solid waste disposal up there for $16.50 for trash. And then we have the park and recreation, as you got to see in those pictures, the drainage field easement, storm sewer, the underdrain, and utilities. That is what's going towards the $58.40. Next slide, please. Alternatives. Everybody always wants to know, okay, well, if this doesn't get approved, then how does this get funded? Essentially, the alternatives, they're not pretty. It would be establishing an HOA, and then you have duplicate governance happening in one community to be able to provide the same services. Elimination of services. The concern that we would have with eliminating any of these services, not watering the parks, not maintaining the parks, not doing inspections the way we need to for the underdrain, for the detention ponds, and for the playground, you start to see the deterioration of all these assets, and then it starts to bring down the property values. The other option is increasing of the O&M mill levy, which then you would see my lovely face again, because I'd be coming to the city of Fountain to amend the service plan to allow the maximum statutorily allowed O&M mill levy, which would be 20 mills. And even then, it wouldn't cover everything. We would still be looking at some type of supplement, either with developer advances or some kind of fee in order to be able to afford all of these services being provided. Next slide, please. So as Christy pointed out earlier, the request that we're having is the $58.40 fee with also permission to be able to fluctuate that number depending on the consumer price index or 10%, whichever is the lesser of. This just allows, so if trash service, for example, goes up, we can go ahead and compensate, so then that way it's an even wash with the trash collection fee coming in and paying out. Next slide, please. And this is their fine schedule for collections, essentially, and this is more for the covenant enforcement piece. I thought it was important to highlight for you guys so that you guys do see that there are fines that can be established if people are out of compliance for covenant enforcement. This does mean if they're not mowing their lawns and they're not responding, our office is a big advocate. One of the items that we always communicate to the residents within the metropolitan districts that do covenant enforcement is that a metropolitan district that provides covenant enforcement is never in the business of actually funding with their fines. We just want the property to be into compliance, and we are more than happy to waive fines for any homeowner that brings their property back into compliance or has a plan, has a conversation. We just want that door opened. Next slide, please. So in summary, we are requesting for a total of the fees of $74.90. That does the trash service of $16.50, and then the asset maintenance fee of $58.40. We would like permission from the City of Fountain to be able to proceed and move forward with that. And then the adjustment with that as well. And then next slide, it'll be questions.
I'd like to touch on one thing now that we've wrapped up all the numbers. You saw at the beginning what we did to present to the homeowners that this was forthcoming. It was, and I told you there's this big stack of papers. It's easy to miss stuff. One of the things we've done with our homeowners at Aspen View Homes, we've committed to, for homeowners that have felt like that hasn't been adequately communicated. We did hear from the title company that they didn't meet our full expectation in always delivering that document, even though it was in there and it didn't always make it in their package. So we've identified over 20 homeowners already that we've made the commitment. We will fund 1 year of those dues directly to the district. We just want to make sure that, if they feel like it wasn't adequately communicated, as good as our intent was, we wanted to make that right. So with that, I'm sure we missed some questions or there's something that we think we explained that maybe we didn't fully cover. So happy to take questions for Rebecca or myself.
Okay, I have Councilmember Rick and then Councilmember Hinton.
IT, could you go back to the slide that had the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3, 4s on it? Okay. So I'm not a big fan of fees like this. I think it should be included in the price of the home, but that's just me. The law allows you to do this. But when I look at this, I have a couple thoughts. First, I remember back to 2021 when this was approved, and a lot of these measures, such as the retaining wall, the storm drainage, the bypass pipe, the under drain, the storm drainage facility, were all required by the city. We, as the city, said, you have to do these things. So you can not like it all we want. We as the city said you had to do it. Second thing is, and Bob, thank you for being here. If we don't approve this and this falls back on us to maintain the under drain and the storm detention pond and all the mowing and stuff, I'm sure you've got tons of people and plenty of assets to do this. Is this correct? I'm being sarcastic.
Unfortunately, no, you are not correct. I'm being sarcastic also. No, there would be no way. And you brought up a good point, especially with the under drain. We've had these discussions citywide with a lot of the infrastructure that's in place over the past 20 or so years, where we're just trying to figure out some places where there was under drain. Of course, there is nobody established to maintain that under drain, so a lot of it has failed now or is failing. And of course, we end up with the phone calls to say, what is the city going to do about it? Which we're currently trying to figure out. A lot of it is of a state where even if we were going to try to maintain it or rehabilitate it so that it would function properly, we'd have to dig the roadway up to rebuild the under drain that's existing, which would far exceed any budget that I currently have. So yeah, if it's not maintained properly from the beginning, chances are that it's going to fail pretty quickly, especially the under drain. And the storm drain, of course, is of particular concern to me with the other responsibilities that our crews have throughout the city. So it's important, I think, to establish maintenance from the start to make sure this stuff is maintained properly. If it falls on the city, it would go on the list of the 300 other work orders that I currently have, and we would hopefully get to it within the next 5 years or so. So unfortunately, it would incur either the city allocating resources, additional resources to do it, or it would fall with a lot of the other maintenance that's being pushed off throughout the city.
Thank you, Bob. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Hinton and then Councilmember Hertzberg.
Yeah, IT, can you go to the slide with the water number on there? Significant, like 600. Keep going. I think it's out. Keep going. Nope. Keep going. Keep going.
It's one of the pie charts.
Yes. Keep going. Yeah,
There it is.
There it is. Dan, that's a lot of water. Do we calculate that amount of water to be used in our calculation? I'm sure that is fountain water, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes, it is, and Taylor can address that if you want to. Taylor Murphy's here, and he's had direct experience with the taps at this location.
So just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, the question is the irrigation component of water use calculated in kind of how much water we have left? Yes, we make a conservative estimate for any multifamily development, large-scale development, anything that has open space or an irrigated component. We also factor in a conservative estimate of the water use for that outdoor component or piece of use, in addition to the water used by each home or number of apartment units or whatever that may be for the rest of the property. So that is factored in with our calculations.
And you're a smarter man than me. So I'm assuming this number is high because it's in the beginning phase. You're going to need to put that water to get all that greenery. I assume that as the development goes on, or they're done with it, that number would decrease? Or
that specific number, I would probably defer to Richard on that one.
So that represents the established number. Currently, our estimate is that we're spending $87,000 a year. I actually have our two last water bills here. I think one is $19,200, the other is $5,000. We're just in another phase of establishing some more sod, so we're kind of in one of those heavy phases to finish. But that does represent the established number once we've weaned off some of the native areas so that we can do our part to conserve what we can.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I've spent a little bit of time on a Metro District, and the numbers seem large every month, for this fee, but it's really expensive to run a Metro District. And some of the things that we don't always think about is, I know in my experience, 5 years down the road and a tree dies in your park, how expensive it is to replace a tree or several trees. Kids in the neighborhood are out vandalize your park equipment, and if Gordy from Parks was here, he could tell you how expensive it is to keep equipment under repair. I know we've experienced as a board talking about repairing pickleball and tennis. Well, they've got basketball courts, so it is expensive. So I understand the cost. And just for the record, I think I know the answer, but if down the road there was an adjustment made, that would go before the Metro Board and be voted on for approval. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Duncan?
Thank you. So I would just encourage that new homeowners if there's a video that you can put on your website explaining what the Metro District is, it's another tax. And so to let homeowners know that, because when I bought my home, I didn't know that. And so a couple of questions I have about the common area. So on the playground that you showed, is there anything for special needs children?
I'm going from memory. I believe there's a swing for special needs, and it was ADA rated. We have a ramp going into the engineered mulch.
Okay, great. So on the rental for the gazebo, is there extra cost? Because I'm looking at the cost and saying, boy, this is a lot. I don't pay this for HOA and a Metro. So I'm not a fan, but I understand the cost. So I just want to know if there are any extra cost. Because I don't want them calling the city of Fountain saying that they want to be able to rent the gazebo. How do they do that?
Sure. So that's a question that hasn't come before us yet. It's not something we've given thought to. So currently there is no cost. It's first come, first served, first use for the two of them. That's something that I would leave to the homeowner board when they take over. Or if the homeowners came to me and said they'd like to see some kind of structure, I want to make sure that they get to make that decision. So.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes. So the slide that you have, the district assets responsibility, you had FMIC. Can you tell me what that is?
That's the Fountain Mutual Irrigation Corporation.
Okay.
And so that's basically redirecting their ditch.
Okay. And did I hear you say that there was a great relationship with the city of Fountain?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
So I feel like we've worked well. I know Todd and I have been talking about making this park a memorial park. I haven't heard if that's coming to fruition yet, but we're excited that it would be forthcoming.
Actually, and I can confirm that.
Thank you.
Richard and Aspen View have been great to work with. Yeah.
Councilmember Estes?
I just want to double check on this, that on your ability to increase the fees up to 10%, that will go before your board. You're asking for it not to come here, but it will still be voted on. You're not just going to increase it without consent of the homeowners.
That is correct, and that's also our goal to leave to the homeowners. The way we're approaching this is this fee takes it all the way to homeowners, so there's no intent where we have to be in the position as a developer to raise the fee. It's a homeowner board that gets to vote on that. The other caveat on that is we wanted to find a reasonable lever where we wouldn't have to come in front of city council if the trash service goes up by $2, something like that.
I have one more question.
Councilmember Duncan?
One more question. So on the trash, does it include recycling, or do the homeowners have to?
Yep, it includes recycling. So trash is picked up weekly, recycling is picked up bi-weekly on the same day.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, just one more question. So you have 33 residents already in that neighborhood, if that's correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
All right, and that build out is at 277 or 227?
227.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
So I appreciate you listening to the previous council on, coming back with some of the amenities in phase one. One of the other things we also were requesting was, when are you going to start getting homeowners onto the Metro board?
So at the town hall that we had with the homeowners, I actually really advocated and pushed. Election year is coming up for metropolitan districts. It's this May. And so I let them know that call for nominations go out January 1. Our office will be conducting as the DEO for the election for that metropolitan district. And we did seem to have some interested parties.
Okay, if I remember right, and Jennifer, you'd be the pro on this one since you live over there. I believe that we kind of phased it in. Because we understood that you needed the majority of the holders on the Metro District Board while you were building but there's been too many times where these developments came in and all the way at the end, and the whole thing's still controlled by the developer. And so to me, that's super important to see the citizens begin sooner rather than later, if possible, getting involved with it. Because I think, as Councilmember Herzberg said, you really begin to understand it, and where all the expenses are, and you can be educating your neighbors, and it's not just the big bad board.
Yeah, and one of the new legislations that passed in 2023 required that special districts send call for nominations by email and mail to all homeowners within their special district. And so they will definitely get noticed and notified for the election.
Can only a homeowner be on the board, or?
So it's any eligible elector, and an eligible elector is defined by you have to be registered to vote in the state of Colorado, one, and then you have to fall into one of these three categories, either be a homeowner or a property owner, I should say. Be a property owner, be the spouse of a property owner, or live in the Metro District.
Okay, well, I would assume there'd be a good voting drive going on over there then to get them all registered to vote, huh? All right, okay, thank you. And then, what kind of, you have any additional amenities coming in the next phase, or?
No, we built all the amenities in the first phase. What's left to be built in second phase is currently being built. It's really the street frontage on the back there on Crescent Moon. There's a small tract that goes over Black Hills easement. That's the 8-inch line that serves the city of Fountain that goes through this community. And then the small tract behind what's going to be the Fire Station 4.
Okay, and if you could go to the fees slide, and not that, I don't mean fees, I mean the, when they get dinged, you know, the $50, the $75, the $100, there you go, delinquency fees, thank you. Okay, so you're late, you just get a warning, then you get $50, and the next time, it's the $50 plus the $75?
Yeah, so it escalates on a monthly basis, essentially.
And you said if they hadn't brought their property into compliance. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so Remuda Ridge does covenant enforcement, and so if they have weeds that they haven't maintained out there and their property's kind of a mess, if they reach out to us and say, hey, I'm working on it, and they submit an architectural plan essentially for changing their landscaping or upgrading their landscaping, we immediately stop the violation, and we're always in favor of waiving fines because our ultimate goal is to just get the property back into compliance, meaning just maintain your property. We want to keep all of your neighboring properties' values higher.
Is that front yard, backyard?
It's both, technically. The backyard, however, we are not going to be peeping over fences. That's kind of a danger to my staff in the office, but it is front yard and backyard.
So just for a clarification with staff, if they're doing their own enforcement, would our code enforcement have any reason to get involved then?
No, and we prefer and appreciate self-governance, you know, even at the neighborhood level. That helps us quite a bit. They would take care of that, we would not.
Oh, well, you don't have all the fees you want, then, no kidding.
And I'll add, and Jack can confirm this, but we've had 2 homeowners that had noticed already for not requesting landscape approval on improvements that they're doing. And they reached out, and their communication was, we don't want to be fined, and we've committed both of them. We're just looking for communication. We're not looking to fine you. It's just so you're reaching out, and that's not something you need to worry about. We're committing not to fine you as long as we're working towards a resolution.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, one question. What has your sense in that community about the fire station being put in that neighborhood? Have you got any consensus from your?
They were extremely happy at that town hall that that's what's being built there because it is helping also their insurance rates. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And one quick comment, Richard, on that has been deeded to the city, so that has been taken care of. And again, that Aspen View was when I reached Richard, and a lot of this is attested to him, but when we talked about the possibility of that, they have been very good to work with us on finding that location for us.
And our team is excited that it's posted because, you know, as in the real estate business, it's hard for us to say that there's going to be a fire station there because the reality is it's a commercial lot. You know, it could be a 7-Eleven. We just can't make a commitment. So once there's a sign for disclosure purposes, it's, hey, there it is. So I'm grateful the sign's up. Thank you.
Yeah, they could have ended up with a Chick-fil-A right there or something, right? And then they'd not be happy, huh, with the lines that that restaurant brings in. Okay. Can the poor gentleman who's been sitting here for an hour and a half introduce himself? I mean, he's sitting there so attentive and...
Hi, I'm Jack Padamasevi, and I would be the first person with whom all these residents would be able to speak to in case there's anything that goes wrong, anything breaks. I take care of it. So, and I'm happy to be their manager.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, any questions from any other council members? Okay, do I have any questions or comments from anyone, my one lone person in the audience? You're familiar with metro districts too, so, yeah. You don't have any questions or concerns? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Didn't want to leave you out if you wanted to say something. All right, any more comments or anything from staff?
No, nothing more.
Okay, all righty. All right, so Christy, just review really quick, just exactly what it is that we're being asked to approve tonight, just so we're all, understanding it real clearly.
Sure. The request is to allow for the Bermuda Ridge Metro District to impose the monthly fee of the $74.90 in addition to allowing for the increase, either by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, or 10%, whichever is less, and then their ability to impose fine for any of the delinquent fees.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, is there any further discussion up here amongst the council? If not, what would council like to do? Councilmember Duncan.
Motion to approve Resolution 24-036, authorizing the Bermuda Ridge Metropolitan District the ability to impose a monthly fee of $74.90, subject to adjustment of the lesser of CPI or 10%, and to impose a late fee for delinquent fees to the residents of the Bermuda Ridge Metropolitan District.
Okay, we have a motion. Councilmember Hertzberg.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation from council? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want the trash bill.
Thank you. I appreciate your time this evening.
All righty. Okay, the next couple items are kind of long, so since it is almost 7:30, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then we will come back in, and at 7:31. let's see, missing, Councilmember Duncans, and, okay. All righty. Guy, we chased the public off, huh? Yeah. Well, they're online. Hopefully they're online, right?
It's out of control. We have no public here.
All right, we're going to go on to item 9C. First reading of ordinance of 1805, an ordinance amending Chapter 1.12, General Penalty, Section 1.12-070, Right to Trial by Jury, semicolon jail, semicolon exceptions of the Fountain Municipal Code. Miss Williams.
Good evening. So this is amending an ordinance that you guys saw earlier this year, I believe late January, early February, that limits the right to a jury trial in some of our most petty offenses. Unfortunately, we did leave the fine amount too high on that for that to be enforceable in that way. So in this case, I went ahead and lowered it to $500 maximum. That's for each offense. So if there were multiple violations or something, that could go higher. But for each count, it would just be a maximum of $500. Most of ours go off of our fine schedule, which generally is around $150 and $200. So we're already quite a bit lower than the maximum fine on how we already deal with these fines and things like that. But this just allows us to not have to provide a jury trial for these most minor offenses.
Okay. Any questions for the staff? Okay, what would council like to do? Yeah, I've been having to punch mine 2 and 3 times tonight, yeah. Okay. Councilmember Duncan?
It says staff recommends approval, so to motion to approve ordinance 1805 on first reading. Is this right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Councilmember Rick?
Second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, on to item 9D, resolution number 24-037, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fountain, Colorado, authorizing the ordering of 2 transit vehicle and 1 tandem dump truck prior to the normal 2025-2026 budget approval date. I assume we are needing long lead times on these.
Exactly, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council staff. Yeah, we've done this before where we've had to come early just based on the long lead times and ordering times and manufacturing times of our larger vehicles. We're still working on getting an estimate on our transit buses because we're utilizing smaller vehicles. We're hoping it won't take as long, but it's still, after talking with the manufacturer, they are taking orders right now, and they normally shut those orders off before Thanksgiving. So although we may still be able to get those vehicles if we wait longer, it pushes our chances out to be able to get those vehicles in 2025. So with the 2 vehicles that we're requesting to order early for the transit department, those 2 vehicles are slated to help us expand our services throughout the city. Based on some of the new bus stops that we are planning on putting in next year, we want to keep our response times and our circuit times under an hour, about 45 minutes or under. And so we were looking at actually splitting our routes into a north and south route, and then possibly also adding an express route in there to make sure that we get people to those main stops that we see frequently visited throughout the day. So these 2 buses will be utilized to accomplish that. And we were also in discussions with Fort Carson right now, although it looks like we may go a different route than using transit buses, but we're back in discussions with them with an ICSA contract to help provide some transit services out on Fort Carson again. And then for the heavy truck units, I believe it's a 2005 model. It's our last basically old model dump truck in the city. It's a 2005. And that would replace that one. That one is definitely a vehicle that is, if not ordered as soon as possible, we probably won't see it until 2026 sometime, based on the demand for those vehicles currently.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
Any questions? Nope. And our audience is left. Okay, right, what would council like to do? Councilmember Hertzberg?
A motion to approve resolution number 24-037, approving the order of 2 transit vans and 1 tandem dump truck snowplow prior to the normal 2025-26 budget approval date.
Councilmember Hinton?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, that takes us on to item E, first reading of ordinances, Ordinance 1806, an ordinance creating Chapter 13.05, Water Adequacy, within Title 13, Utilities of the Fountain Municipal Code, establishing requirements for adequate water supply and potable water service. Mr. Murphy.
Actually, I'm going to take the lead on
Okay.
this one, Mayor, and I'm going to utilize Taylor's expertise to back me up and answer some of the tough questions that you all might have. Yes, tonight we are addressing or proposing an amendment to the City of Fountain Municipal Code, adding a water adequacy requirements. Basically, the limited availability of treated water combined with our limited ability to acquire new water resources for growth has created the need for a policy to ensure that adequate water supply is provided with each new development project without adversely impacting the city's existing water system or existing customers. The utility staff work collaboratively with our planning staff, our legal staff. We received input from outside legal counsel, from our water attorney and land development attorney, and all of this was done with oversight by the city's administration. So it was a very collaborative effort across the board. The general purpose for this ordinance is to formally establish the city's policy for the provision of water to development projects. We are authorized to do this and obligated to do this by multiple sections of the Colorado Revised Statute, but we want to bring to your attention the most predominant one that obligates us that we shall not approve an application for a development permit unless the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated that the proposed water supply will be adequate to serve their development. This is a section of statute that has been there for quite some time, and it obligates us to once again to ensure that the applicant has demonstrated that they have adequate water supply. Some of the terms and definitions that are really important, I think, to understand how the ordinance works is the available water. And the available water is essentially the amount of water that we have available for new growth. We size our treated infrastructure, basically from our treatment plant to tap. We size that or design it and size that to deliver on the maximum day demand. And so the maximum daily demand we are defining as the total amount of treated potable water delivered to the city's water system from all sources in a single day within the immediate past 5-year period. Currently, that day occurred on July 2nd of 2020, in which we had 5.3 million gallons of water put into our system that was ultimately distributed out to our customers. When we did the analysis in 2021, we had our available, or to calculate the available water, the system's maximum capacity is approximately 6.3 million gallons per day. And so when you subtract that 5.3 maximum daily demand, that leaves you about left us in 2021 about 1 million gallons of available water. And that is equivalent to approximately 1,500 single-family taps. And so we have a definition. I'll cover that in the next slide. But probably by far the most important definition in here, and you'll see this the most, is the adequate water supply and potable water service. This is what describes the developer's responsibility, and it includes all water, the actual water molecules, and the infrastructure from source to tap necessary to provide water service for a new development. The important thing to note here is that the water resources and infrastructure must be sufficient for the build-out of the proposed development in the quality of the water, the quantity of the water, the reliability, and the availability for the life of the project. The water supply, this is the amount of raw water that is necessary to serve the development on an annual basis. Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, but currently we can serve approximately 2.5 single-family equivalents per acre foot. Is that? So, okay, we're to about 3 then right now. Thank you. I've mentioned the single-family equivalent. This is the unit of measure that we use to equate all of our taps to. And on a maximum day, a typical single-family equivalent uses a little over 600 gallons. The last definition that I want to bring your attention to is what we call the fountain water service area. This is the physical area within the city limits that has been designated as the area that the city provides potable water to. As you can see here on this map, we have graphically depicted. The city limits are basically all of the areas that are colored, and the city fountain, we provide water in the blue colored area. Whitefield Water and Sand provides in the yellow. Security Water and Sand provides in the red. And then Strathmore is at the South Academy Highlands. So we do not serve all of the customers within the city limits, but the vast majority of them. And currently we have about 8,700 existing taps in our service area. So why is this proposed ordinance needed? It memorializes the city's obligation to confirm that new growth has adequate source of water, referring back to the CRS 29. It formalizes the city's position that new growth pays its own way for all new or expanded water service. It establishes a policy that enables staff to consistently evaluate water service requests. It protects the existing ratepayers from risks of developing water resources for new growth that may or may not occur. In the traditional sense, or what has been done in the past, is that the municipalities will go out and they will finance and develop water sources and resources with the anticipation that new growth will come along and pay for that. However, if that does not occur, then it's the existing ratepayers who are left holding the bag, so to speak, as we have to still continue to make those debt payments even if or when growth doesn't occur. It also ensures future growth does not compromise or impair existing water service by over-allocation of our existing resources. We have more than adequate resources to serve all of our existing customers. So this ordinance is really weighted to protect the existing customers. Those customers have paid for the service that we provide. They've paid for the infrastructure. And so in my opinion, they should have the right to fully use the resources and the infrastructure that they have paid for. Now, we do have a water scarcity response plan that would be put into action if we had an extreme drought, we had an extreme event that was unanticipated, but that would anticipated to be just a short-term event. not a long-term impact to the existing ratepayers. Applicability, who does this affect? Well, first off, it does not apply to any of our existing customers who are not planning to modify their properties. If you're not planning to expand your property, then you, or build something new on your property, then this proposed ordinance has no impact on you. It does, however, apply to all new land use applications within our water service area. So if you're proposing to annex into the city, these rules and regulations in this law would apply to you, any new development, and then redevelopment of existing sites within the service area in which the developer would be seeking to increase the water consumption that occurs on the site. Now, we do have an exemption to these provisions, and that for a single 3/4 inch water service to a single-family detached home located on a lot that has been legally created or platted in accordance with the city's subdivision regs or created prior to those regs, and the the proposed ordinance does enable the utilities director to make this exemption. What does the ordinance do? It requires all new developments to provide adequate water supply and potable water service for their proposed development. Once again, adequate water supply and potable water services is the key term there. Requires developers to demonstrate that they can provide the adequate water supply to serve their project, and we are requiring this to occur at the earliest stage of the development review process. So at the first application, development review application that is submitted, the developer will be required to submit a water availability application so that we can make a determination if we have the water or if they're going to have to bring the water in the infrastructure so that they can make a decision early on if that's something they can do, or if they can't, they can choose then not to proceed with the development review process. It establishes the process for submittal and review of water availability application. It establishes the minimum standards for the provision of their obligations, and it requires ultimately the dedication of the water rights and infrastructure to the city. How does the process work? The water availability process starts, as I indicated, at the very first step in the development review process, when the developer has to submit the water availability application, which we have already created, and as you can see graphically depicted on this slide. The first thing that we look at to see is, do we have sufficient available water? That means, do we have the taps available to serve the proposed development? If the answer is yes, then the developer can go two ways. They can place a refundable deposit to reserve those taps for a 12-month period. What that does is that assures them that the taps will be available when they get through the development review process. There are some situations, and in fact right now I know that there are projects that are taking more than 12 months, so we do have provisions to extend that 12-month period. But the developer could also choose to not enter into an agreement and put down a deposit to reserve those taps, and if that were the case, then they would proceed through the planning process with no guarantee that water would be available when they got to the end. If it is determined at the very beginning that we do not have the water taps to serve the development, then the developer has to do a water supply and potable water service plan, or they can choose to terminate the application. The water supply, the adequate water supply and potable water service plan, this is basically where the applicant has to submit a plan to demonstrate that they have water for their development from source to tap. They can do that in two ways. They can participate in a project that would create the water supply and the infrastructure, if there is not a project such as the Fountain Reservoir project, there's a regional indirect potable reuse project that's underway through the city of Colorado Springs. There's other avenues in which projects could be developed that they could participate in, but if they are not available or the developer chooses not to participate in one, then they can do this on their own and demonstrate that they can provide the water supply necessary to serve their proposed development. This is a very new concept to land development. And this is going to be probably the most difficult approach, and most developers will have difficulty in being able to do this on their own, and may likely have to partner with others to achieve this. So the plan, when we get the plan, the thing that we're going to be looking for is, once again, sufficient quality, quantity, reliability, and availability for the life of the project. And once again, that is from source to tap, and we have a graphic on the bottom of this slide that depicts kind of what a water system generally looks like from the source, say Pueblo Reservoir, all the way to the tap in Fountain. And that is, the city of Fountain is the one who oversees that water system. But then from once it's gone to the customer and the customer consumes it and it moves in, becomes wastewater, then that is handled by the Fountain Sanitation District, which is a separate entity from the city of Fountain. And the Fountain Sanitation District is responsible for collecting the wastewater, conveying it to the wastewater treatment plant, treating it, and then discharging it to the receiving waters. You did hear Brett Robinson say earlier that we do bill for the Fountain Sanitation District. We have a contract with them. They do not do their own billing, and their billing is based on actual water consumption, and so we have that data. So we are two separate entities with two separate responsibilities, but we do have some overlap. To implement the proposed ordinance, the current municipal code for the city of Fountain enables the director to promulgate rules and regulations that are necessary to administer the code. Promulgate is essentially empowers the director to establish rules and regs that are necessary to affect the terms and requirements that are in this code. Our staff has already prepared proposed updates to our water regulations that would be needed to implement the provision of this ordinance, and we have graphically depicted some of that information on the right hand of this slide. But if this ordinance is approved, we are prepared to move forward immediately with the additions to the existing rules and regulations that will enable us to administer the ordinance. One of the provisions that we've put into the ordinance is a provision for cost recovery for excess capacity. If a developer goes through and they develop their own projects, it is highly likely that in that process they will have more capacity than what is needed to serve their development, and that excess capacity could be used to benefit other properties or other developers, and so they would enter into the ordinance has provisions for that developer that creates that excess capacity to enter into an agreement with the city in which they then would recover the proportional costs that benefit other developers. And then when the other developers would come in and they would utilize that excess capacity, we would then collect the costs associated with those benefits and basically refund those or pay those back to the original developer. And so that gets us to the end of our presentation. Our recommendation is that the City Council approve ordinance number 1806, the Water Adequacy Ordinance, on first reading. Be happy to answer any questions, and like I say, any questions I can't answer, Taylor will be happy to jump up and answer for you.
Okay, do we have any questions from any council members? Okay, Mr. Council.
Have you received permission from your doctor to promulgate?
That's a personal question, sir.
I withdraw the question then.
Councilmember Estes?
I just want to say I am so thankful that we are so forward-thinking and that we are trying something new to address this issue. And I'm just ecstatic that we're doing this.
Thank you very much. We definitely believe it's in the best interest of our community.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate, we've always heard development needs to pay its way, it needs to pay its way, it needs to pay its way. We've always heard it. Now we're laying it out for everybody to know ahead of time what that means. So there's no surprises when they come in. It's just all laid out. So thank you very much. Okay, my lone audience member. Do you have any comments on anything on this tonight? Okay, not even a thumbs up, thumbs down, nothing? Oh, okay.
There you go.
Got a thumbs up.
Thank you.
Okay. all
Madam
right.
Mayor, I have a
Okay.
I have a
Alrighty.
comment.
Any other council members? Okay. Gosh, Dan, no questions.
Madam Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, I think this is a great approach. This is something that's really important. And it's a really, I think it's a leading edge approach for communities. I think you're going to see more of this up and down the Front Range. I want to make sure from a setting expectation standpoint that this has an impact on developments that are potentially important to the community. And by that, I mean specifically mean the council. For example, on the Lorraine School property, one of the things that council has approved is a redevelopment plan that would provide for some facilities there. And specifically, most recently, we've been dealing with affordable housing there, a developer who wants to bring in, and my recollection is 45, 46, something like that, affordable housing units. That development will not have the water to serve. That developer's in the process of going through the CHAFA funding process right now. That may be a year. Well, his round that he's going through will be in February. They don't typically get funded in the first round, so it could be another year. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see, but I just want to make sure the council understands that will probably mean us shutting that development down for the very reasons that Dan talked about, just the lack of water. I just want to make sure that I'm setting the expectations.
Unless they bring their own.
Yeah, but they're for low, moderate income housing.
I know,
They're not
I
going
just,
to.
yeah, I'm just, yeah. And I want to make sure everybody understands, and I'm saying this more for the general public than the council, because I think we get it. Putting down the half-tap fees doesn't mean you go to the top of the pile. It just means when you get to you finally, they will be there because you've paid half in advance, correct? Okay. I just want to say it publicly. You're not moving the top of the stack. Okay. All right, any questions from anybody? Any more comments from staff? Thank you for bringing that up, Scott. Yep. All right, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Hinton?
I'd like to approve on first reading ordinance 1806, an ordinance creating Chapter 13.05 Water Accuracy within Title 13 of the Fountain Municipal Code, establish requirement for adequate water supply and potable water service.
Councilmember Duncan?
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
All right, that takes us on to item 9F, first reading of ordinance number 1807, set an appropriations for the funds, offices, and departments of the City of Fountain, Colorado for the fiscal year 2025, beginning January 1st, 2025. Ms. Dale.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, and I bring before you tonight, of course, the first reading of the fiscal year 2025 budget ordinance. The public hearing that we normally do with first reading will actually be part of second reading on November 12th, as we did not publish the notice for public hearing until October 18th. So we're doing things just a little out of order this go round. All right. So the city has developed and proposed the fiscal year 2025 budget as part of the two-year 25-26 biannual budget. And after several months of meetings with staff and 3 separate work sessions with city council that were held on September 24th, 25th, and October 1st, we have proposed the 2025 initial budget in this budget ordinance. If you notice in Exhibit A, there are several tables within that exhibit with 3 different columns. The one that we're going to be working with tonight is the first reading of the proposed budget. There's also an adjustments column and then the second reading or final proposed budget. So should council decide to make any changes within the budget tonight or during the public hearing during next council meeting, you will see those changes reflected in this exhibit during the next meeting. So overall, we're going to start with the overall budget and general fund items just for consideration and as part of our philosophy when putting this 2025 proposed budget together. This 2025 budget, as we've all discussed previously, is in direct alignment with the 25 through 27 strategic plan. And we've worked very diligently with staff and all the departments to make sure that we reflected the amounts that are tied to specific strategic objectives within the budget document. Additionally, there's a new cost allocation methodology that was used and is reflected in both the general fund and the utility funds, in the operating transfers as revenue into the general fund, and as also on the expenses as the water and electric utility. As we move everything into the general fund, and then we end up billing water and electric on a monthly operating transfer for the actual costs. In addition, the general fund mill levy returns to the 10.239 mills for 2025 after the 1-year temporary reduction in 2024. Additionally, sales tax revenue is estimated at a steady 2% growth rate, which has held, and we've maintained that over the last 2 years. There's also a 3% merit increase for all city employees included in this proposed budget. We have been working on a market adjustment and a new pay plan with our HR department. However, the adjustments for market pay, which will affect majority of our public safety and our utility departments, have not been included in this budget and will be a separate work session with City Council at a later date. A couple of items of note in the general fund expenses. One of the biggest expenses we have in the general fund is the exit expense and the corresponding revenue. As you've all heard John Schultz talk about, the exit program has exploded in the last couple of months, which is tremendous. So those expense accounts and the corresponding revenue have increased approximately over 150% over 2024. Initially, our revenue for 2024 was set at $1.392 million, and now we're looking at almost $3.7 million in 2025. Additionally, the general fund revenue exceeded operating expenses prior to one-time capital purchases by $295,000. Council did go through a list of additional requests for capital and a couple of operating expenditures for the general fund, which totaled $2.7 million, which would be then paid for out of various committed fund balances in addition to the unrestricted and unreserved fund balance. On these tables here, these are these tables that are contained within your exhibits as well, and these are also the same numbers that you've seen during the actual work sessions in September and October. So this is just the general fund revenue. We're looking at revenue for 2025 of approximately $42.3 million. On the expense side, these are the expenses broken down by department contained within the general fund, and this does include the capital expenditures where we're part of that additional funding request, which is why if you look at the bottom here, I'm going to try and find the pointer, this revenue less expenditures, you'll see a deficit of $2.4 million, and that is because of those additional one-time expenditures that we'll be paying for out of the fund balance. This one is the fund balance projected table. This is one that was not contained in Exhibit A. And I just wanted to show this to you tonight, as these are estimates, of course, for 24, 25, and 26. And I know one of the big numbers that we all look at is what is the percentage of unrestricted, unassigned fund balance do we have available? Because by charter, we are supposed to maintain 20% fund balance And that includes our unrestricted, unassigned, in addition to the 3% emergency TABOR reserve that is required. So both of those together. So right now for 2025, with the current budget that you have before you, your operating expenditures right here total the 42 million. And then so our total unrestricted, unassigned plus the TABOR is 9.3 million. So after all of the capital expenditures, you're looking at potentially a fund balance of 22.2%. So we'd still be about 2% higher than our required fund balance reserve. Initially, when we had discussed during the work sessions the fund balance, that we were sitting at about 28.5%, and that was before all of the operating and the capital expenditures, that we have since then included, which is why you see the significant drop. If we maintain course, then in 2026, and I know tonight we're only talking the 25 budget, but we are projected to be right around our 20% fund balance mark in 2026. All right, moving on to the water and electric funds. Again, the new cost allocation methodology, is reflected within both the water and electric funds administration cost center expense lines. So you'll see a significant reduction in those lines because those offsetting expenses are now housed in the administration line and the cost center of the general fund. Additionally, as you've already heard from Dan tonight and from Scott, we continue to work on stabilizing the water fund and building the necessary O&M reserves in both utility funds, as that remains a high priority, even as a part of this budget and also the strategic plan. In the water fund specifically, we still have the water fund franchise payment to the general fund is still on hold for 2025 while we work to build the water fund 3-month O&M reserve. Additionally, the water fund revenue will exceed expenses, including one-time capital, by $2.1 million. However, the one thing per government accounting standards is the debt service payments, which are actually not expenses, they are liabilities, and so they're not reflected within the expense budgets. Those will total approximately $1.94 million for 2025, which will come out of that excess of $2.1 million. On the electric side, the electric fund franchise payment to the general fund has been reinstated for 2025. Additionally, we used to have multiple cost centers housed within electric, one of them being the Electric Engineering and Planning Division. And after multiple discussions with Dan and his staff, we all decided that there wasn't a benefit to having those broken out anymore because it all benefits the electric operations. So you'll see in the budget that what used to be the Electric Engineering and Planning Division has now been combined with electric operations. So all of that money is still there, it's just housed in a different cost center. Additionally, electric revenues will exceed operating revenues before one-time capital expenditures by $2.4 million. However, the 25 budget does include $4.33 million in capital projects, $3.5 million of which is for the Riverbend substation, which will be paid for out of previously restricted and committed cash, which was designated for a substation. This is just the graphic table of what we just talked about in the water fund, and you'll notice here at the bottom, this is where that $2.1 million of revenues over expenditures, but then that will be used to pay for the $1.94 million in debt service liability payments. On the electric fund side, you'll see the deficit here of $1.389 million, but again, that includes this $4.3 million in capital expenditures. This last table here is just the miscellaneous funds that are housed within the city, the ambulance fund, drainage fund, conservation trust, and all of the other miscellaneous smaller funds that we have. And if you look over to the right, sorry, there's a sign in my way over here. You'll be able to see which of these funds currently will have a surplus and will build up, thank you, Dan, and will build up some of their fund balances versus those that will actually be using part of their fund balance. So overall, for the grand total for all of the funds of the city, we're looking at potentially $98 million in revenue versus $100 million in expenditures, and so a total pull from all of the combined fund balances of $2.5 million for 2025.
The last discussion point that is contained within the ordinance for 1807 is the Heritage Special Improvement District update. On October 9th, the Heritage Special Maintenance District Board meeting, the board unanimously agreed to a motion to temporarily reduce the gross mill levy of just the district by 2 mills for a total gross mill levy of 2.94 for property tax collections received in 2025. This reduction in the mill levy reduces their property tax revenue by approximately $45,000 in 2025. So instead of $112,000, they'll be getting approximately $67,000 in property tax revenue. That is, I also included the letter from the district, Mr. Rainville, excuse me, where he sent that to council for their consideration on this as well. So other than that, I am open to questions from council.
Before we open it up to council, Mr. Trainer, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to make sure, we talked about this during the council meeting, or, excuse me, the council budget process. The budget as proposed has a 3% salary increase for staff. And then, as I mentioned during that budget process, there are a few positions that we have that still are going to be significantly below market. And so those will be coming back. Our HR department's in the process of updating the market data. They were hoping to have that completed today. It wasn't complete. I think they're running that by Shauna to make sure all the numbers jived. But there are typically, you'll see market adjustments for our electric folks, our electric linemen. And then in this case, it's specifically for the police fine. And then this is general. There's a couple other odds and end positions, but generally speaking, those are the positions. So we'll bring that back to the council so you guys can see that adjustment in the future. But I just want to put that out there as well.
And you feel confident with this budget that we can support those changes?
Yeah, because you got to remember also that the police comes out of their 2B dollars as well.
Right.
And so it doesn't impact the general fund.
So just to be clear, this looks, when you look at it, it looks like we don't have a balanced budget, right? You just pull it up and you look at the number and you look at the end. What's the best way to explain that to someone who says, because by state law, we have to have a balanced budget, right?
Correct. And we do have a balanced budget as far as operating revenues and operating expenditures. So if you look at just the operating expenditures, we are within budget by $295,000 for the general fund. It is only the one-time capital expenditures that we are pulling from the fund balance.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to have that
Yep.
stated very clearly.
Absolutely.
And, because it does look, you pick it up and you go, whoa, wait a minute. So, all right, any questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Rick.
Scott, do you have that list of public-facing projects that?
The one I emailed out?
Yeah.
I didn't bring that with me, but let me see if I can't pull that
Scott,
out.
I have it.
Oh, you
I have
have
a hard copy.
Great, you're on it.
Is there any way we can show that on the screen so the public can see that?
I don't have the electronic copy.
Okay. I would just ask at the next budget presentation that we include that so that the public can see, we are spending money out of our reserve on a lot of it on projects that are going to directly impact the public, give benefits to the public, and I just want the public to see that at the next presentation.
How long is the list?
It's significant. So I will do my best to try and truncate it down as best I can to fit it for the presentation during.
No. My question was if it wasn't too long, if we could just read through some of the.
Shauna, that's not actually the list they're
Oh,
referring
okay.
to. That's the broad list of everything, but there's a list of specifically ones like pickleball and tennis courts and park bathrooms and those kind of things that are really the kind of projects the public would really be interested in seeing. And so,
Potentially expanding the splash pad.
expand the splash,
potentially.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
We
Trying
can
to do
definitely
some
put together a
one-time
slide though for the presentation during the public
Yeah,
hearing.
that chart's made.
Yeah.
We'll have that for the next meeting for sure.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Mr. Rainville, any questions or comments? Did you want to say anything about heritage maintenance or? Thank you for coming. State your name for the record, please.
Alan Rainville, 972 Legend Oak Drive. So I wasn't planning on speaking, but I will give my 2 cents. So this has been a pet project of mine since being on the board for the Heritage Special Maintenance District, and it's been to lower the mill levy. In my opinion, the mill levy was pretty exaggerated from the income that we're taking, from the revenue we're taking in, and then from the expenses that we're paying. And our base was just getting larger and larger and larger, and the mill levy just was staying the same. So I thought, a couple, 3 years ago, it's like, hey, we should be lowering the mill levy to accurately reflect the revenue coming in and the expenses being paid. So hopefully this will pass today, and the second passing also, but that's my opinion. And like I said, the board for the Heritage Special Maintenance District agreed with it and passed it unanimously. And by the way, we're always looking for board members, for anybody who lives in the Heritage Special Maintenance District.
Great.
We meet from April through October, so we're available if you have any questions for us. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so if anybody within listening is interested in being on that board, they would contact City Clerk's office potentially, get it started?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, great. I appreciate you taking the lead, and you guys are taking advantage of really a brand-new state law that just passed a couple years ago, like we did last year, where you can temporarily reduce it for a year, and then you come back the next year and review it, and keep going at it if you can, because there might be something that you can't. So thank you very much. Okay, any last questions or, oh, yes, go ahead.
I found that email, I resent it out to the council so you have it again. There's about 17 different items on that list, equating to about almost $2.2 million. So, and we will have that at the next meeting.
All right. I'd be more than happy to take a minute and read it out loud if I can get it open here. Or Scott could just read it. Ooh, that's tiny. Go ahead. Yes, please, yeah.
Link Road reconstruction, that's the engineering portion of that property, or that project, $625,000. Blast Park urban greenway improvements, $60,000. Expanding our right-of-way maintenance contract, that's to really expand what we're doing to help maintain all of our rights-of-way, particularly in the city entryways. It's another $20,000. We have some right-of-way areas we want to zero-escape, $30,000. Aga Park restroom, $300,000. We actually have 3 different playgrounds we're going to do, but Conley Park's one of them for $75,000. Shade for the bleachers at the Metcalf Park, $65,000. Annual lease payment on a Firehouse 4 for those that are interested over on the east side, $132,000. Expanding August splash pad that was mentioned, $200,000. Samantha Crutcher Park playground equipment, $75,000. Lindamood Park playground equipment, $75,000. Replacing the fence at the cemetery, about $40,000. The tennis and pickleball courts at Aga Park, $300,000. And then we have an additional streets maintenance worker and an additional recreation coordinator. There's a big demand in both those areas.
Okay, and I hope some of those projects, like Gordon said, forward-facing, the citizens can actually see some of their tax dollars being spent, because we really feel like our parks in general are just being really, really well-loved, and we need to put some improvements on them, and so that people can enjoy them more. So, all right. Any further questions? All right, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Hertzberg.
I move to approve first reading of ordinance number 1807.
Councilmember Estes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further deliberations? Seeing none, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That takes us on to item 9G, request by the City Council to reschedule the regular City Council meeting dates for November and December 2024. I made the assumption and asked to put this on that nobody wanted to come the Tuesday before Thanksgiving or on Christmas Eve. So what were the dates? I'm getting a yes over there. So what were the dates that we were proposing to move them to?
To move to?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have those dates, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay, hang on just a second. Let me get to-
We
All
would be
right.
moving it, so you have the original one on the, for example, on November, the first one in November, which is, we're not changing that one at all, just want to make sure that's really clear, and that's November 5th. Then we would do it
No,
the
wait,
following.
no. November
Oh,
12th.
excuse me, 12th, sorry. Looking
You
at the
can
wrong.
come on the 5th, we're not
Yeah,
coming.
no,
Okay.
12th. And then we would do it the following week on the 19th.
Right, okay. And then December?
December, it would be on the 10th
Okay.
and the 17th.
10th and 17th.
The 17th is the one.
Okay. Everybody agree with that? Okay, I want to do this public, make sure all the public has a chance to get that on their calendars. Mr. Rainville left, he missed the whole thing about getting it on his calendar. Okay, so we don't need to vote on this, do we? We do need to vote on it. Okay, all righty, would someone like to make a motion?
Move to approve a request to reschedule the regular city council meeting dates for November and December.
Yeah, let's not deal with January yet. Okay, November, December, and Councilmember Duncan.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further deliberation? All right, all those in favor? That's a wrong meeting. Please vote. That's PPACG.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, do we have any city council agenda requests? Nope, not seeing anybody jump up and down. Okay. No executive session. Ms. Williams, no executive session? All right, thank you. All right. Okay, meeting adjourned.